Pat's Interference is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
All right, we are diving right in. Recording Tuesday night. It is the end of one full week of Patriots training camp. Ideally, I would record tomorrow what I expect to be the Patriots' most important practice of training camp. We're talking full pads, probably one-on-one pass rush, receiver versus coverage drills. But look, sometimes that's how life goes. And as I promised, we're going twice a week now. And as I mentioned many, many times, I have these 2,000-word recaps you can find in the Boston Herald, thebostonherald.com, that whatever happens tomorrow, most important day, won't be on this podcast, but it will be in the paper and online. In the meantime, there is no one I would rather talk about training camp with and rather not go head-to-head with out there on the field than our next guest. And man, I saw in Foxboro today, and Ted, I got back to 2 plates on bench press the other day. Felt good about myself. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Callahan, you lift.
Oh, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I do. And then you come along, tap me on the shoulder. I look up. Not only are you still in blank shape, you have a ripped sleeve because it cannot contain your arms that I didn't tell you about out of sheer shock. So first of all, thank you for making the time. Second, thank you for making me feel like crap. How are you? 3-time Super Bowl champion.
I'm good, buddy. Thank you for having me. And I have to say, I can't believe you brought this up so early in the conversation, because I had a thought when I saw you today. No lie. My thought was, dude, Andrew's getting a little jacked. Dude, you're getting a little vascular. You're putting on some, dude, you are putting on some muscle, and you just verified it with the 2 plates. It's good. I've been doing this my freaking whole life. Literally came out of my mother's womb lifting weights. So you have a long way to go. I'm going to be doing this for a long time, pal. But for you, honestly, you look terrific. So whatever you're doing, keep it up, and you look great, bud.
Well, I'm going to high five 10-year-old me who just heard Ted Johnson said, "I look great," who just ran through the space-time continuum.
Let it in
my week.
You look good, bud.
And it's good to talk to you. I think you've been on 3 times now. Always great energy, even when last season obviously was going on. It was slog. We talked to Aaron Rodgers. I think we talked before the Bills game, how to scheme for those quarterbacks. We talked over the summer ahead of the draft. Obviously, we can hear you on 98.5 The Sports Hub on NBC Sports Boston. And, for you, obviously, as a player, there's a lot changing when it comes to Patriots training camp. Changes that I've even noticed, not as a Jack person, but just as a person who's watched them go through 5 training camps. It's been slower. It's been less physical. You have players that are just altogether sitting out for certain days. Today was Trent Brown who did that for the second practice out of 6 so far. Reminder, Stevenson's done it twice. Same with Matt Judon. That's contract related. We can talk about that later. I'm going to set all that to the side, though, and just ask you right off the top, aside from the load management, we'll call it, what's one thing that surprised you through 1 week of camp? And then we can get to load management if you want to, too.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I mean, because that is one of the, I'd say, top 3 kind of biggest surprises so far is the load management. But there's a couple other things that I definitely would want to talk about. And that is really just, I think I'm a little bit surprised where the passing game is at this point, Andrew. I wasn't expecting to see fireworks when I've gone out there the last 2 days. But I was expecting to maybe see a little bit more. I'll be honest with you. It looks like, the guys that are really involved in the passing game right now are maybe the guys that you expect. The biggest free agent acquisition this year, Juju Smith-Schuster. There's a lot of plays that are designed to get him open. They're highlighting him in there. So, although he's getting a line share of max receptions, they're designed to go to him, and is my point. But besides Juju Smith-Schuster, Hunter Henry is popping a little bit, and then Demario Douglas, of course, the 6th round draft pick, is everywhere. I mean, his nickname is Pop because I'm assuming because he is popping everywhere. But the other guys, Mike Gesicki, who I was very, very high on this year, Kendrick Bourne, who I was very bullish on going in this year, these 2 guys have been non-existent so far. And then a lot of people are concerned with, and this is not the biggest surprise, I'm going to be quite honest with you, is the ineffectiveness, if you will, so far a week in a training camp with Tyquan Thornton. A lot of people thought, he was going to be a prominent, a person in this passing game. 2nd round draft pick who's showed some promise last year. I just don't see it. I really don't. And I'm concerned that Tyquan isn't going to be a bigger part of this passing offense. And then another thing that I'm kind of surprised about in the passing game, Andrew, I don't see a lot of attacking in the middle of the field, deep and down in the I would say short to or intermediate to deep middle part of the field. Even the short part of the field. It's really the passing game is outside the numbers, quick hitting kind of stuff. They got to get back to attacking the middle of the field with the 2 tight ends they have, with Ramondre Stevenson, with Juju Smith-Schuster, with the guys at slot position. You should be attacking the middle of the field. I don't see that a lot from the passing game so far. And so that's probably, besides the load management, one of the bigger kind of surprises so far. Is I thought the passing game, although it looks functional, would be a little bit more advanced than what I'm seeing so far.
So your hair has been blown away. It almost looks like mine when you're watching a training camp, because that's a lot of surprises, yeah. Ted. But let's go through them one by one. I commented on the passing game in my last episode, and my bottom line was, at this stage of camp, and I rattled off the numbers, Matt completing less than half of his passes in the red zone, where, by the way, last season, Josh Allen and Joe Burrow did the same thing, was obviously much better weapons during a full season. I don't care about the numbers just yet, because, again, you don't have the pads on, no threat of the run, completing passes in a confined space, really, really difficult. Now, the parts that I was encouraged about that will transfer over Bill O'Brien's offense, which we'll get to in a second, I was happy about. And I think we've seen more and more from that really has me hopeful from that side, at least X's and O's wise. The part that will transfer that I'm not hopeful about, I am in complete agreement with you about. I have been lower on Tyquan Thornton than I think consensus to this point. Even last summer, he's getting hype. He's making catches, breaks his collarbone, and he'll come back in. The staff also considered starting him week 1, had that not happened, by the way. But he's been worse than expected. 1 catch to me. He had another one on Sunday, but it was really negated by a sack. I think the raw talent's there. 6'2", 4'2" speed. But they've moved to the full field now, and there's just not that kind of separation. I mean, if you were kind of scouting him back in the day, are you still going, okay, he ran 4.2 at the combine a year and a half ago? Or what are you writing up ahead of a game against him on a Sunday?
Get him early in the route, right? I mean, so the 4.2, who cares, right? I mean, that's how we beat the Indianapolis Colts, who some would argue had better, skill players on offense than we had, defensive skill players. And so how do you stop a fast, quick, high octane offense? You hit him in the mouth and you slow him down. And Tyquan's, we know he's a lean guy. Look, I think he's a strong guy, but I think an aggressive, physical type corner can really negate that speed. I don't see him being a possession receiver, right? I mean, so like, what does he do best? What do we know that he's better than any receiver on this team that can do, at playing wide receiver? And that's running downfield. And that's running straight in a straight line. He's not a guy that's going to do, I think, a lot of dig routes, comebacks, slant and goes, and that type thing. And so I'm a little bit worried of him just being an overall fit. And I was like you this whole offseason, the Tyquan Thornton thing, I never understood it from the beginning. And I still don't understand it. And I'm not surprised so far that he's been non-existent, because so far this offense isn't taking a lot of shots downfield. And we know that's probably what best thing he brings to the table, Andrew.
All right, let's go to the opposite side, because I also talked about a lot of receivers last episode. Positive note on defense, Marte Mapu, who I was pumping the brakes on because I missed OTAs, got married, went on a honeymoon, came back in minicamp. He has a pass breakup. He's running with the starters, got the non-contact on. He still has the non-contact on. But, Ted, he's also still running with the starters at linebacker. And then when the third string unit comes back, they're saying, hey, come play safety. He's like, okay, sure. And we've seen him go over the slot. So I'm not going to pretend to be even, I don't know, not expert, not half the expert, not 10% of the expert, obviously on linebacker play that you are. Again, they're not hitting, not a ton of run fits. There's some motion there to kind of, maybe some eye candy to throw him off. But he seems to be fitting in a way that even as someone who was saying, pump the brakes, let's wait, I'm buying in more now. I don't know what his path is. It probably is playing linebacker and base next to Juwan Bentley, but he's a rookie. But he's a rookie who's handling it right now. What do you see from him?
Yeah, look, I mean, for them to have him out there playing all those positions, I mean, you said it. He's playing middle linebacker. He's playing in the slot. He's playing safety, but he's playing free safety a lot of time. And that's a big question mark, is that position. I don't know. That's kind of one of the more underreported storylines, I think, is just the free safety position. And so he's been playing, he's been playing all over. And I think it was Adrian Phillips I heard earlier today, Andrew, say how smart he is. I guess he's got a very, very high IQ. And I guess he just keeps raising his hand in meetings. And so he asks a lot of questions.
Who is that back in your day? Like, I have to imagine, I'm glad the veterans to a point. It's late July. We're going to go into August. I'm glad you're asking questions. If you're going to get on the field, you need to ask questions. But when it's late August, early September, maybe middle of October, that guy's, one more. What about this?
You know what? He's a good friend of mine, but he would probably admit this if he was being honest. And it was a middle linebacker from the mid '90s, late '90s, and that's Marty Moore. He was Mr. Irrelevant. He had an 8-year career. He was a damn good linebacker, considering where he was drafted. Play as long as he did it. Marty was always asking questions, and that was a killer. But I love him. But you know what? He was doing what he had to do to keep a job in the NFL, and at the end of the day, I have a lot of respect for that.
All right, but in the moment, did you have the respect, or were you just ready?
Not at the moment. Nope, not at the moment. I needed to retire and then have some distance to have an appreciation for how Marty went about his job. But I'll tell you what, those guys in the meeting room with Marte Mapu, if he's asking these questions and he goes out there and he's executing, which like it seems like he is. I mean, he's in a red jersey. We see it out there, but he's easy to spot, and you see him everywhere. They have him everywhere. And for him to be able to play those types of positions with the complexity of that defense, it tells you from an intellectual standpoint, at least football IQ wise, he's got a very, very high football IQ.
Well, and one of those plays, because I think it helps to illustrate some of this, right? Where even I'm reading, before I got back to minicamp in the spring of, okay, Marte Mapu generating a lot of headlines. I respect a lot of the people that I work with. I read their work, even when I'm doing the same things. What did they see? What did I miss? To see those headlines in it, the details make the difference. And that's true on the field. It's true in media. One of the details that I picked up on today was his second or third snap. He's at linebacker. They run their first run play of the day. A look they haven't seen a ton of because, again, they were just in pads yesterday, and that was it.
Those were instinct.
Like this. Run stuff right there. Just met Reminder Stevenson in the backfield and kind of came around the edge. Maybe he's slipping that block when he should take it on in real time. But that kind of recognition and that trigger and go was really impressive to me.
We'll see. I love it. I love what I've seen so far. He's very aggressive and very confident. You just watch his body language. He's a very confident young man. And I saw that play that you're mentioning as well. So it sounds like he's really smart. It sounds like he has a high football IQ, but if he has instincts on top of that, I mean, that's impressive. I mean, he was playing, it looked like either he came off the slot or he was playing outside linebacker, but he got in the backfield so fast. Like if the guy can make plays on top of, cognitively being able to, play multiple positions in a very complex defense, then, oh boy, the Patriots got a good one, it sounds like.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to over-under to spreads, who you think is going to hit first home run or any home run at all. And that's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. I have, and you should too, because there's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/Boston to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. All right. Let's go on to a couple of things that you expected and have come true, and then we'll dive into Bill O'Brien's offense, because I think the point about them not attacking the middle of the field is a really good one that want to talk about underreported storylines. And Mac Wilson for me is one, but I'm going to ask you about overall linebacker play at the end. And then obviously we'll discuss the headline of this episode, which is what do you want to see next?
Yep.
Things that you expected. For me, it was Bill O'Brien elevating the offense, modernizing the offense, whether it's RPOs, play actions look like run actions. Okay. Empty formations. Those things are working defensively. The secondary is tight, and it's that safety group. Christian Gonzalez looked like the player that we saw in the spring, not a rookie whatsoever. And the defensive line is to be expected. So am I missing anything as far as things you go into camp, I can bank on X, Y, and Z, but you're saying, no, don't forget about Q.
Oh, I think the first two I think are absolutely correct. I mean, the word I would use when watching the Bill O'Brien offense is it just looks functional. I mean, there's motions, there's personnel groupings, there's creativity, there's audibles, check. I mean, I hear Mac Jones, check. Alabama. I mean, he's making audibles at the line of scrimmage. We hardly saw that last year. So it's a functioning offense. It looks I don't see, the offensive line has been struggling. I think we all know that. But I haven't seen these disastrous kind of, we were just talking about Marte Mapu getting through in the backfield, but it was like every single snap last year in training camp, someone was getting in the backfield, right? I mean, it just destroyed the any kind of attempt to get any rhythm for the offense. This year, that's not the case. It looks like a functioning offense. Is it dynamic at this point? No, it's not by any means, but it's functioning, and that's what I was expecting to see, and I saw that. Another thing, I had to say it, but this is more in the negative, is that I was really kind of worried about the offensive tackle situation. It still seems a week into training camp that is not only just a minor concern, it is a major concern. And then the last thing for me was just Tyquan Thornton. I just never have thought he's ever been a fit for this offense. And so far, a week into training camp, he looks to be out of place, in my opinion, out there. So those are the three things I kind of was expecting to see and so far have seen.
All right, really quickly in the offensive tackle situation, because this is a different conversation than it was even a month ago when we we're going, okay, you got to get 2 starters out of Trent Brown, Riley Reiff, Calvin Anderson. Calvin Anderson has not been seen. That man is in witness protection somewhere. He has a different name. He's in Arizona, sipping on a cocktail, staying out of the 120-degree heat, never to be seen again as far as we care, because he's still on the non-football illness list. Mike Reese of ESPN pressed Belichick on this today, went back and forth. Bill's doing the I'm not a doctor. I don't have a crystal ball. You don't bother to bring up, hey, you've got doctors, because I've done that, and you still get, well, they're telling me we don't know. Sure. Anyway, Riley Reiff, after 2 practices without pads, seemingly was demoted. And the reason we have to say seemingly is because Trent Brown is getting these off days, which, again, I think is smart. You should put him in bubble wrap and just let him sit until week 1 as your only starting caliber tackle. He cannot get hurt. But because he's not practicing, Riley Reiff is now your starting left tackle. And at right tackle is the man who supplanted Riley Reiff, Connor McDermott. So we'll see if Anderson comes back. We'll see if Riley Reiff was actually demoted or this was a rotation. How much is Trent Brown going to play? The talent's not good. The injury situation makes it worse. Tyquan Thornton, we've talked about. My bottom line for that, just for folks who are still waiting, I want to give him time. He's a second-year player. He deserves the time. And the one thing on Mac, because you're right, it's not dynamic yet. Part of that is red zone. Part of that is I think Mac's just not been that aggressive downfield. We saw that one long shot today to Kendrick Bourne, another disappointment, 1 catch through camp, but whatever.
That was he threw that nice sideline pass to Devontae, right? Parker.
Yes, yeah, contested catch. Good ball. I wonder if that starts to open up a little more when it's kind of like baby steps. Like they are opening up the field from a drill standpoint, but like what would make Mac more comfortable to open it up where it does get more dynamic because they're going downfield? I feel like they rushed into that last year, right? He had the furthest average depth of target. Where is he throwing downfield? It was over 10 yards per route. When he was throwing the ball through the first 3 weeks, and obviously that offense stunk. So it's not just chuck it. What do you think would make him more comfortable getting used to a new offense?
Oh, I think it's just the biggest thing that's going to make him comfortable is a solid offensive line. I mean, that's where it all starts. Yeah. He's got to feel protected. If you've seen him last year, his body clock speeds up, particularly if he's pressured early in games, and then he just can't shake it. So number one job is for Mac is to just be protected. So you got to get him protected. That's that to me is the biggest thing. And it's really just reps, man. It's just more reps. It's more work with Gesicki. It's getting more comfortable with Tyquan Thornton. Just continue to just keep working at it. And here's the thing. I'll be honest, Bill O'Brien, and I think to some degree, even though I haven't seen a dynamic, really any dynamic, aspect to this offense, is it feels like Bill O'Brien is having a lot of patience. I don't hear him yelling at guys. I don't hear him screaming at guys. I don't see him, chewing guys out. It all feels like they understand that it's going to take time, that it's not going to be fixed overnight, that last year trying to untangle all of that, I don't know, kind of residue for, the residual effects from last year, getting all that out of the way, that takes a lot of time. And I'm seeing a lot of patience. And so I'm not as worried about it, but, in these upcoming, couple of weeks, I'd like to just see more pop downfield, receivers getting more comfortable with Mac getting more comfortable. And I feel like Mac is holding back just a little bit. Last year did a number on him. And so the trust, he doesn't have complete trust from the coaching staff just right now. And so that makes you as a player, I think, hold back and not be 100% the leader that he really needs to be. So hopefully that comes over time. Just right now, there's a filling out process, I think, with Mac coming back this year based on what happened last year. But I'm patient. They seem to be patient. And so if we're saying the same thing 2 weeks from now, Andrew, then it'll be a little bit more appropriate to panic.
I think that is all well put. I think it's excellent perspective. And the number one word that I took away from that is the same word I took away last week when we last heard from Mac Jones, which was trust. I mean, he said that's the theme of training camp. And I think that's why, as you very astutely observed and mentioned, Bill O'Brien is not teapot yet. We have not seen him blow his top, all the steam come out, the expletives. His message, and I heard this in OTAs and minicamp, and you can't report what coaches are saying. We'll break the rule here once. It's been a few months. Was, look, we're not playing the effing Super Bowl tomorrow, okay? Just get it right today. Let's be better tomorrow. Focus, relax. That's not a guy who's reaming you out. That's not a guy who's getting on you for missing every little detail, because that's what camp is for. That's his effort to build up that trust. It's not an olive branch. It's just understanding where those players are at. I think it's really important. I think it's a good point by you with the offensive line. I've covered to death how Mac was terrible under pressure. It was my number one indicator this year, even this summer, of how he's going to be. The one other thing I want to mention, tons of screens, right? And I wonder how much of this is going to be a feature of the offense. Is it going to be a bug because Bill O'Brien's trying to get ahead of the protections issues, understanding even when we're healthy? I mean, picking between Riley Reif and Connor McDermott is like gum on the bottom of your shoe or gum that's already on the sidewalk.
Yep.
It might not be that bad, but ultimately it's a choice that most teams don't have to make because they have better tackles. Anything else there that you want to hit on before we get to the other part of the next few weeks, what you want to see and some things that we need to see from this Patriots team?
Oh, I mean, I would say I'd like to see a more confident Mac. I mean, that's what I'd really love to see is a more confident, Mac Jones. And so how do you get there? It's just, you keep going. You keep trying to, be the best you can. You hope that you get a little bit more good feelings from Bill, because I think Mac needs to feel love from Bill Belichick. I think he's going to perform better if he feels like the head coach believes in him. And so just put one good practice after the other. Keep building on this passing game. It's a functional offense. You have a really good offensive coordinator. Trust that you have the pieces around you to go out and play your best. And so I'd like to see Mac get more confident. And then the other thing I'd like to see more highly competitive, practices. I'll be honest. I don't want to be the, that guy that, that kind of bitches about, today's athlete, but
go for it. Go nuts. I don't have any of those on the podcast. So be that guy.
Oh no, it's amazing. I just feel like, if the Patriots are a little bit worried about health and how this team is healthy at the end of the season, okay, that's fine. I mean, and they pointed to maybe the success of last year, how healthy they were. Have you seen the wins and loss totals of this team in November and December the last few years? They haven't been good. And so, and you look at the start of the season, Andrew, it's what do we got? We got Philly, then we got the Dolphins, then you got the Jets, and you got the Cowboys. All four of those teams are going to be picked to beat you in those games. And so it's important that you get off to a fast start. You're worried about maybe keeping guys fresh at the end of the year. It is very important to get off to a fast start. And I just think mentally and physically, you got to be more calloused and more prepared than I feel like what I'm seeing, how Bill is preparing this team so far. I just worry from a physical standpoint that they're not going to be ready out of the gate. And so I hope I'm wrong. I know there's still a long way to go here, but man, I just haven't seen the highly competitive physical, periods. There's not a lot of one-on-ones. There's just not a lot of intense kind of team periods that I've seen. So I'd like to see that as well, besides Matt getting a lot of confidence, just a more physical, higher competitive mindset in the next, week or two.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance, again, for a team that has stumbled down the stretch every single year that I've covered the team. Hell, maybe it's my fault, but I think the last season they finished strong was 2017. And you look at those years since, is it conditioning? Is the amount you're practicing, how hard you're practicing during the season? But at some point you have to lay a foundation. I think they're addressing it in a position by position basis. our only good running back, only good starting offensive tackle, best edge rusher who's kind of got a contract thing going on. Take off, go down to the field 1 every 3 practices. Don't do it. As for me, the next week or so, because again, we're recording this Tuesday night. The team is going to practice Wednesday when I think we're going to get our wishes granted. The genie is going to arrive in that sweaty media tent, and we're going to see one-on-one pass rush, which is at the top of my list because I want to see Keion White isolated against Trent Brown, hopefully. What does that second-round rookie bring? Antonio Mafi, who's beginning first-team reps at left guard, suddenly big, burly guy, ton of starts in college, even though he's green because he started college playing defense. Jake Andrews, who came back today, some rookie offensive lineman, in addition to Josh Uche, Judon, Jennings. Give me some one-on-one pass rush. So
Gonzalez,
I think
I'd like to see, Jack Jones. I'd like to see Christian Gonzalez. I like, right? I mean, those one-on-ones are the best, right? I mean, one-on-ones are so fun. And so, and he gets the crowd going. And so I'm with you, bud. And hopefully you'll get to see that tomorrow in tomorrow's practice. Those highly competitive one-on-one type drills are really fun, a fun kind of drill to watch.
They are. All right. And I'll just run down the practice schedule because this is what we're talking about, when you would see these things or when you wouldn't. Wednesday will lead into Thursday. I think that'll be a ramp down practice. Friday is in the stadium. A lot of special teams. Last year was a half-hearted scrimmage. Then I expect them to practice Sunday, Monday, Tuesday before Thursday, August 10th. They kick off against the Texans at home, preseason opener. So one-on-one pass rush I've covered. I want to see some run game, at least some cohesion, because we blamed it last year, at least early on, is they're drilling a ton of outside zone. It's kind of new. They're installing it, whatever. Joint practices came. The Panthers kicked their ass in the trenches. They're still doing some outside zone. You have a new offensive line coach. You have some new pieces up front. Some cohesion there. At least one long run, positive runs, not constant run stuffs. And the last thing I want to see, if you're looking at a successful week next week, and we could talk about Mac, and Adrian Phillips said he looked more confident now. But again, like you said, it matters what happens when the heat is on, the pressure is on, is yards after the catch. This is a receiving core. Devontae Parker, a great grab today, contested catch guy. Juju was signed over Jacoby Myers. He's better after the catch. Kendrick Bourne, I would assume, added 10 pounds of muscle because he wants to be even better after the catch, something he's good at already, because it looks to have cost him some quickness and separation. So that trade-off, you have to get some return, not just the net negative on that. And so this offense will be at its best when those guys are in space and not having to win one-on-one in isolation. It's what do you do within the blocking schemes of a screen game or some pick route combinations like we're seeing in the red zone and other things to kind of get them free, because then once they're free, go be an athlete. And that's what's going to make this offense successful if they want to reach their ceiling. So I want to see some yak plays.
I like that. But you mentioned, I think a metric that is becoming one of the more important metrics to look at to some degree, or at least, some of the better offenses in the NFL, that being the San Francisco 49ers, the Dolphins. They are usually ranked, those two teams, as 1, 2, top 3 teams in the NFL in yards after catch. So when you have a quarterback that maybe is limited with his arm strength, you have a bad offensive line, so you can't hold blocks as long. Ball's got to come out fast. And so you need guys that can run after the catch. And, Kendrick Bourne, Juju Smith-Schuster, hopefully Demario Douglas, those are all guys that would fit the bill for what we're talking about.
Yeah, Demario Douglas. I've said, I think I even told it to, one of your colleagues, Alex Barth. You guys do radio all the time. He asked about Douglas on his podcast the other day. I was like, I still need a little bit more. And it's because he's getting fed on these screens. And I think next to the 6'2", 6'3" rocked up receivers that are most of his teammates, he's the short, quick guy. So he looks even quicker and smaller relative to them. Are you more with me? Are you at the front of the hype train, the caboose? Like where are you here?
I'm kind of I'm more probably in the front of the train,
All right.
Telling people, let's go. If he's 5'8", please, I'm 6'10". He's not that tall. But those are hard guys to catch. You can do some creative things to keep those guys, free from getting jammed at the line of scrimmage, and move them around. I mean, you could just see there's a lot of creativity in how they're using him to get him open. I just think, I don't know. I like those types of that profile of player, Andrew. So I'm kind of excited to see what this kid can do. I don't think it's just a early training camp kind of mirage. I think there might be something to it.
I love it. You know what, too? he has the quickness and the long speed. He was a guy I mocked to the Patriots multiple times back during draft season, said he's a fit. They like him. Obviously, had him at the Shrine Bowl out in Vegas. So they're familiar with Pop, and he's been with the first team offense every single day, not for every snap, but with that group when they split from, okay, guys that are the ones and twos, rest go to scout team to drill against the, ones and twos on defense every single day. He's been with the top 2 units preparing before they eventually go to 11.
But Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he kind of one of those guys that if you talk to scouts that have covered him at Liberty, think that the Patriots got a steal? Or isn't he kind of viewed in that, or am I mistaken?
Well, what's funny is I think he went about where he was supposed to go. But when you consider also he was a kick returner there and has been repping as a kick returner in practice, he'll offer some sort of value somewhere because they're still giving him those reps. And when you talk about, a steal late in the 6th round, the name that we heard all in April and May, you can go back to the podcast, talk to anyone then, Keion Booty, who has done just about booty in training camp and looked that way. And he needs time. There's talent there, but that was, a pick that everyone talked about and just really hasn't panned. It's early. I'm not here to say the kid won't make the team, but if I was betting, I'd move all my chips in that direction. All right. Players under pressure. Like we talk about this, some of the rookies, like, Marte Mapu a lot. We've obviously gone with Mac, the offensive line. I think there's some low-hanging fruit here, but it's a prove it year for everyone. So I feel like we could go higher up the tree. But when you think about pressure, at least for the next week or two in the preseason opener, who are you looking at?
Ooh, besides the obvious, besides Mac, I think, I don't know. I think there's a part of me that's going to put pressure on Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm sorry. I'm going to always kind of watch him and his production and compare to Jacoby Myers, because I just thought Jacoby Myers should still be on this team. I thought he should be rewarded. He was your best receiver the last 3 years. And so I just thought he was a guy that you were just building momentum year after year after year. So I'm going to judge his production based on my feelings of Jacoby. Can he lead the team? Can he be the guy that Matt goes to on 3rd down? So there's some pressure in that. I think there's a little bit of pressure. I don't know if you want to call it on Bill Belichick, but Riley Reef, you were guaranteed $4 million. It's a $5 million contract. Dude, let's go. Give me something. To get that kind of contract late in your career, I don't know. I think he's a Drew Rosenhaus guy. I don't know if that was like a favor, but dude, you got to be playing better. And then I would say, last but not least, this is a guy that I think gets underreported, talked about, that I think needs to start showing up more, and that's Christian Barmore. And please, Christian Barmore, show up. And I hear him, popping in practice. Can I go out there and see him making plays in the backfield and being disruptive? Because that was kind of the trajectory he was on, Andrew, to start his career. And we're third? This is his 3rd year in, and I'm not seeing any real momentum with Christian Barmore building based off of last year.
Yeah, Barmore has been repping with the 2nd team defense. He actually came up when I did Zoe and Bertrand today. And my sentiment was, he'll get it going. He missed a day. His daughter was born, her son was born, he had a baby. And, he'll be back and we'll see him with the pads on. But maybe they should have challenged me on that, because thinking now, I'm kind of with you. He gets that bump of being a 2nd round pick, right? You get to stick around longer, more benefit of the doubt. The talent's there. We've seen flashes. And he had a really, really good rookie year. Injury cost him a 2nd season, but 3rd year, you're a piece you're going to rely on, and you need to produce. All right, Riley Reef, you took the name right off of my list, so I'll scratch him off. Pierre Strong comes to mind to me, and this is honestly a late ad based on the last couple of days when Kevin Harris, fellow 2022 draft pick, has leapt ahead of him. Kevin Harris leading everyone when Stevenson was getting, pampered down in the lower conditioning field on Monday. And so he's already been leapt. How long is that? Is it pre-prelim rotation? He needs to prove he can run tough and handle in blitz pickup. He's talking about being an all-around back the other day. Okay, show it. Another player, 2nd-year player, Marcus Jones, sneaky for me. And it's almost more on the team hoping that he delivers, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen with Jack Jones. I think we're going to hear from Jack Jones this week from my latest conversations with the team as far as the legal situation goes. Spoiler, he's going to say nothing and do exactly as he's told. But if he's not available, your next outside corner, John Jones, who's best in the slot, Christian Gonzalez, and then 5'8" Marcus Jones, who's had good battles with Devontae Parker, but something to keep an eye on. The last one I'll mention is Chad Ryland, rookie kicker. Kickers always have pressure. 5-6, had a bad one today. You take it from here.
Dude, I can just real quick. Can we do a 1 second thing on kickers? Just today, I think I saw 4 or 5 kicks, and he missed 2 of them. One he pushed to the right, and one it was like kind of jerked it left. Dude, that guy's got to deliver. I don't know. I mean, Nick, you can't afford. Look, Nick Folk's been solid with his field goals. We all know that, but he can't kick off. And we saw the Patriots get crushed because they didn't have a guy that could kick through the end zone. And so really we need Ryland to step up, and he's got to be nails. And he was a little bit shaky today, Andrew. So that's a great name to throw out there. That guy's got to, for his draft status where he got picked as high as he did, we got to see some consistency. He's got to deliver for this team in a big way. So I'm with you on that.
And I just talked about the draft bump, right? The higher draft pick you are, the longer you stick around. It's not only just with your team, but across the league. And even the second contracts. This is something I learned in kind of reporting or learning more for the story I did on Sunday. Contracts were chewed on, how you can extend Uche and Duggar, and it's fair for everybody. The draft status, even after you come up, say Duggar will, he'll get paid a little less because he's a former second-round pick, not a first-rounder. I think it's really stupid, but that's how business is done. Anyway, with Ryland, they traded up in the 4th round, drafted him ahead of where Steven Gostkowski went. And so he'll get time even if he bombs in the preseason opener. I'll tell you, and I can tell you as someone who covered him in high school baseball, Cedar Crest High School, Lebanon, Pennsylvania, smart kid, keeps to himself, very analytical, very driven. And so he's got the leg talent. And I think mostly his head on straight. He's really focused and dedicated. We'll see what that comes, but it comes with the position and the draft status, and he's got to deliver. All right, we'll end on this before we get to the mailbag. We talked about Marte Mapu and the linebackers. Bentley, we haven't really talked about. He's been running with the second team defense. I think it's something just to kind of get those guys organized, be the signal caller, nothing to read into there. Jelani Tavai's been fine, solid camp. Mac Wilson had 2 pass breakups today. I don't know if this is something that helps a smaller, more athletic guy who can make plays in space, or just a blip in the large or picture of training camp. He excited me though, because he's got tools these other guys don't. Anything else you're noticing from the linebackers as a certified expert on that position?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen a whole lot other than other than you see Tavai lining up everywhere. I mean, and he's he can do a little bit of everything. It's a little bit disappointing. I'll be honest. I don't only one padded practice, and it felt like it was in the most intense practice ever. I'd like to see. Josh Uche I see just a pass rusher. Can he do more than just rush the passer? I don't know. I'd like to see Josh Uche, do more than just rush the passer. And I haven't seen him the 2 days I've been out there do that with much success. So I don't know. I'd like to see a little bit more out of him. But the linebackers at this point, I think are a little bit nondescript. The one thing that kind of gets you excited is the Marte Mapu, just him playing there, what the potential is with him playing there. But it's at this point for the linebackers, just nondescript type of performance so far from that group.
I know it was a different era, but Adrian Phillips got this question from my colleague Doug Hyde today, and I kind of want to ask you now. Is there anyone you played with that had the wherewithal and the physical ability to do what Marte Mapu was at least trying to do? You play safety in this complex defense and linebacker up there, where he wouldn't have been able to live in your era at 230 pounds. But Is there anyone who did that part-time? Anyone you saw across the league, played with?
Yeah, we had a linebacker that played safety, Don Davis.
Oh yeah,
Don Davis played safety. So that was a guy that had a unique kind of physique, if you will. He was a smaller. Don's very well built. Let's not get. He's jacked, but he was a little bit shorter, really lean, and so one of the more undersized guys, tough as nails, smart. And just a really good athlete. And so that was the guy that not the biggest name, more of a special teamer and a backup, inside linebacker, if you will, but was asked to play safety and did a good job in the few games that he was asked to do that.
Why? Because again, I'd said it first thing that came to mind. Special teams guy. Would he wear 51?
Don wore 51. That's exactly right.
Why? Why didn't he play more? I mean, obviously he wasn't good enough, and you had a great defense. You know, you're up there, Teddy's there, Willie, Rodney back there. You know, all these different guys, but just anything missing?
I mean, you just named some great, we had great linebackers, dude. And the linebackers.
Why didn't he play over you, Ted? Come on, that wasn't that hard. Yeah, come on.
We all had, you know, like Teddy could rush the passer and he could play inside. You know, I was like, you know, I just did one thing really, really good, and they didn't ask me to do a whole lot of coverage in passes. So, like, I had the run down. Teddy had the pass rushing, blitzing, you know, covering down, and then, you know, and then you got, of course, Pfeiffer, who was just, you know, you come in and cover any, basically tie it in the NFL. And we all had these roles that we were very good at. And it was hard for Don to break into that, right? And so the linebacking core that we had when Don Davis, who was made it a part of a great linebacking core as well, just too many really good and unique type linebackers in front of him, unfortunately.
All right, let's get to the mailbag. And these are pretty straightforward. I think we've covered half of this first question. This is from Ashley. She wants to know, so far during training camp, which player has been the biggest surprise positive? Who's been the biggest disappointment? Disappointment, we agree on Tyquan Thornton. I'm going to change my answer, though, to Kendrick Bourne, just as someone who's had more time in the offense, more time with Mac Jones, had a great offseason. We heard about it from Bill. I don't think they're BSing about having a great offseason. Like, I think I picked him as someone who's going to return to form or be better. But so far, 1 catch, 6 practices is what it is. Surprise for me has been Demario Douglas. Like, it's hard to say that, you know, considering – or it's not hard to say that. He's a 6th-round rookie receiver with a top 4 that seems pretty entrenched ahead of him. And he's finishing with 3 or 4 catches per day, which right now pretty much leads the team. So even though those are split between mostly second and a little bit of first team snaps, that's impressive, consistent production.
Yeah, no question. I like those two that you bring up. But for me, I think the biggest surprise, I'll be honest, is I think he's still engaged and he's still on with the program, and that's Trent Brown. I was a little bit concerned, I'll be honest, about his mindset coming into training camp, considering what he looked like in minicamp. And he's so vitally important to the functionality of this offense. And I almost think he knows it. I almost think he's using it as leverage, but I could be wrong. I don't know. But seems like he's motivated, even although he did not practice today or yesterday. It sounds like it's being reported. I think you even said it. It's more of a load management type thing. So as long as he's motivated, that's what I want. And I'm a little bit surprised based on how minicamp went. And then let's see, what was the other one? The biggest.
Well, I think we kind of covered it. Like, Tyquan Thornton right now has a lot of loose dirt.
There you go.
We don't have to pour cement on him. He's down there and buried. But
that's a good point. And I tend to agree with you as well when you kind of do an honorable mention for Kendrick Bourne. Like to see him. It was good to see him get a touchdown in the red zone. Was that yesterday? But we need to see him making more plays consistently.
All right, Gary's asking, what has been the single biggest physical attribute surprise? That's in quotes of camp so far, and he details saying this player is quicker than expected, bigger, stronger, etc. Anyone jump out? Because I have an answer.
Oh my gosh, why don't you give me your answer first, and then I'll think of it. That's a good one physically.
So Juju is bigger than I expected, and I knew he was a taller receiver. I actually, talk about covering guys years and years ago. Covered the Rose Bowl. He played against now like a quarter of the Patriots roster: Trace McSorley, Mike Gesicki, all these Penn State guys, and he was big then, and I watched film of him then, and obviously he succeeded in Pittsburgh. And, it's just different, though, when you have a guy in the slot who's a real power slot and really 6'2". Like, he's yards after catch guy because, he's elusive enough in the open field, but he'll run through tackles. And we haven't seen it yet, but just the power in his lower body is already evident. It would be something I would be excited about as a fan, just looking at him in person and be like, okay, wouldn't want to run into him.
Oh, I'm good. The crack blocks? No, I'll let the next guy take that. Good one. I thought of one. Keion White.
Oh God.
Keion White. He's just.
How many plates for Keion White, you think? I stood next to him the other day.
I think he warms up with 6, 3 on each side. He warms up with 6 plates probably. I mean, he's got muscles on top of muscles on top of muscles, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
he tested well, broad jump, vertical jump, bench. Obviously, I think he got to 30 reps at 225. Enough bench talk. I'm sorry.
You beat me by half a rep.
Yeah, but yeah, right.
I had 29 and a half at the. I was like, I wanted 30. They only gave me 29. Oh
wow.
Yep. Yeah, back in the day, bro. That was my event. The bench, dude. You were not going to outbench me. No, sir. So I led that at the combine, and I was middle of the road and everything else, but I had the best bench of any linebacker there. So I was very proud of that.
I just said no bench talk, but here I am dipping back into the pool.
Yep.
Does it hurt a little bit that he got to 30 and you didn't? Is a longer guy longer? Yeah.
With all those muscles, it would have been nice. And I have, he's got really long arms, but dude, that it would have been nice to know that I could maybe outbench the dude. That dude looks like, he could just, crush me into like a can and then dispose of me into the trash can. That's how big he is. He's
a human transformer. He's a grown and a half man. He's one and a half.
I mean, his reaction at the draft was great too, right? I mean, he just looks like all that, and then he seems like a mean dude too. Like he's mean in a good way, like kind of what you want in a football player. And so we just pumped him up big time. Keion better deliver for you.
Yeah, you know what? He goes to the top of under pressure. Let's erase the list. Put it back up here. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And of course, a player that Bill wants who has that kind of reaction, who apparently turned team off just by acting like Bill and just very straightforward. Anyway, Keion White, massive human being, nothing new there. Him being bigger than expected, I think is fair, 290, but explosive. Again, that was a theme in this draft class, is they're going after athletes and athletes and athletes. And so far, that seems to be a wise move because as we detailed, Christian Gonzalez looks great. Keion White, we've seen some of that power. Marte Mapu is moving all over the place. Anyway, second to last question. For what I was asking, surprise cut. I haven't really moved in one direction or another here, but if Tyquan Thornton was playing a little bit better, again, there's time. I'm not burying him just yet, but we've just detailed the stats. They are what they are. If he was playing a little bit better, I wonder if the Patriots are a little more open to those trade calls for Kendrick Bourne. So it's not a surprise cut, and it's not even a new trade rumor. But Demario Douglas coming up, you could trust him to be your number 4 and really number 5 receiver when you consider Mike Gesicki is going to be somewhere in this mix. So your top 5 pass catchers, Tyquan Thornton could fit in the top 5. Bourne's expendable on expiring deal.
I don't know how that's the answer. I think for that question, it's Kendrick Bourne. I think Tyquan, they're not going to let go of Tyquan. That's a high draft pick. My guess is that was a group selection. I think there was a front office probably that invested in him and believe in him, and so he's going to get more than just 1 year and one off season to prove himself. And so you go, okay, if there's got to be a receiver that gets moved, I think Kendrick is probably the guy. I mean, God, surprise cut. I mean, they need every tackle they can get, even though the tackles are playing terrible. I mean, they need every tackle. That's a good one. I'm trying to think on the defensive side.
Well, how about Lawrence Guy? He was my name if we're going with true surprise cut even before the minicamp pulled out. And it's more of a contract thing, but he's been repping with the top defense. Like you would have to rely then on Christian Barmore to play base, which I don't think they want to do just yet.
No.
But
Patrick White, I mean, I don't know. One of the, I don't. That's a good. It'd be hard to. I mean, would one of the running backs getting cut surprise you, Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris? I mean, I don't know. Like, does a Ty Montgomery he hasn't been practicing the last 2 days, has he? Like,
no.
And who's our third down back? I mean, you need a third down back, and if Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris, or Ty Montgomery, don't step up. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Just one of those guys, and that might not be a surprise because of where they were drafted, but they need running backs. So I don't know. That's a good question. Other than Kendrick, that would be shocking. I don't know if has Bill had a shocking kind of camp cut in the last 2 or 3 years. I feel like he really hasn't. I mean, unless you want to, Cam Newton was maybe that, but that was, I feel like that was off the field related. That wasn't like that was more like him having issues. It was more about that than it was performance, wasn't it?
Well, he was cleanly beat out on the field, but not kept as a backup because of what I think you're talking about, like the locker room.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it was a combination of the two, but I think you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah, Cam Newton takes the cake for the answer to that question, but it's a good one because I think it also just reflects you have fewer hard decisions to make when your roster is worse. You know, like the competition you have there, is it because you have a surplus of good players, or is it because they're all, you know, okay? Like receiver right now is competitive in the sense of someone just needs to get more than one catch and you're pulling ahead on the depth chart. Anyway, enough about the receivers.
But can I just, but real quick, just say one position on defense where you look at and they go, they have a surplus of players at this position.
All right, I'll give you one. Jalen Mills, safety.
Safety, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So that's a position to look at more for a surprise, and that's a great suggestion is Jalen Mills. Although he was kind of me and Zolek's pick for maybe starting free safety. Like we're trying to figure out the free safety position and the body type wise, and just what does the free safety look like? And I feel like Jalen is more that guy, but I don't know. I don't know how that. It's hard to kind of tell who's standing out at free safety just, you know, a week in the practice, but I feel like a surprise cut might come from that position, Andrew.
Yeah, and I think that side of the ball, because it's the more talented side of the ball, with fewer holes. So yeah, Mills, and on the free safety thing, because we got some good commentary from Adrian Phillips, who's he's great, man. Like we hand out the Media Good Guy Award, and I as a representative on the beat, handed out to Matt Judon, easy call. Jacoby Myers, the way he stood up after the Raiders game last year, in addition just to talking to anyone who wanted to speak with him, not just me. He got it. Adrian Phillips has been a runner-up for that award, which, look, no one should really care about on the outside. If you do, there's your answer. But anyway, what he said today was, you know, none of us have Devin's speed, so we can't cheat in the way that he did, knowing, okay, I'll shade, you know, on the near hash, knowing I can get to the field if I need to in a hurry. Like you got to play it a little bit more down the middle and kind of play with your disguises. But we've seen Phillips there. We've seen Mills, as you mentioned, though he's been more second team defense. Kyle Duggar's rotated back. Jabril Peppers, who probably has the closest raw straight line speed of any of those guys, but a little bit more inexperienced in the defense relative to everyone I mentioned. And Jonathan Jones, who, I take back my answer about Peppers, does have the best straight line speed of those guys, but is a cornerback. So I think the other solution to this is just play more too high. You don't need one person in the middle playing closed safety or post safety, whatever you want to call it, the whole time. But it is a really good storyline. Doug Kyde actually wrote about that for the Herald today, so you should check that out. Last one for me, and I've done this to you before. Andrew is writing in, and this is actually inspired by the Don Davis conversation that we just had, because in addition to knowing Don Davis's number, which just lived somewhere in the back of my brain, full of things that are not useful except for this job, I thought, did he play for the Saints? And so when we're talking, I look up, did Don Davis play for the Saints? He did play for the Saints. And so I'm asking you, Ted, after spending a summer of spreading the gospel of this game, it's called Immaculate Grid. Have you heard of Immaculate Grid? Have you played Immaculate Grid?
No, I've never heard of it.
Okay. Here's the premise. It's a daily game. It's online, and they have a different game for baseball, the MLB, NFL, NBA, and NHL. And so it's a 3x3 grid. So you've got 9 total squares. And each row and column is different. And typically they're teams. So you'd have the Patriots to be one column, and then say another row is the Dolphins. You'd have to find someone who played for both teams and put them in that square. Anyway, I think you would be excellent at this. And I want to compare notes and put you in the 5 different text chains I have going on about the Days Immaculate Grid, because I somehow still have time in the middle of training camp. But B, Don Davis would get you what, I like to call the sub 1, because in addition to having the answers, they tell you what percentage of people playing the game had the same answer. So when you have a popular, like, I don't know, say the Patriots and the Buccaneers, and you put Tom Brady, that'll be like 70% of people said Tom Brady, because of course, but they don't.
Don Davis would be 0.5.
Yeah. And I think the folks listening to the podcast, these sickos who love the Patriots, I'm kidding, of course, they're very dedicated. They're smart. They have excellent questions every single week. Would do great at Immaculate Grid. Hopefully play excellent Immaculate Grids. I think we need to get you on Immaculate Grid, and we'll fill in the teammates. Marty Moore could make a comeback on there. I'm gonna text you the link after we're done here, and we'll get you on, and we'll talk about it.
You got it, buddy. I'm hooked. You described it perfectly. I went in on this, so send me the link.
Okay, you got it. Did you were you a baseball fan at all growing up, or were you just gonna stick to football in this?
I was a baseball fan. Oh yeah, no, I grew up a fan of all sports in Houston. So Oilers fan, and Astros fan, and a Rockets fan. But Nolan Ryan was my guy, number 34. He was the man. So I was a big baseball fan back then. I played. That's what I played all growing up. Before I even played football, was baseball. So I don't love the game as much as I used to, but I was very much part of my childhood.
Well, anyway, then it is going to work out for you, because it is just a nostalgia bump every single morning with your coffee or whatever drink you're doing to get going. And New
I
games
love
at
it.
9:00. Yeah, so it brings me back. Late 90s, early 2000s baseball was never better. Maximum steroids is what we wanted. Maximum fun. Anyway, he's Ted Johnson. He's been excellent. He will be back soon. 3-time Super Bowl champion. Listen to him on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Tell him if he has a rip in his shirt and don't ignore it like I did earlier today. He has a new shirt on. Looks great. And hopefully we won't talk as much bench press next time, but we'll just do that in private instead. All right.
Hey, Andrew, always a pleasure talking with you, buddy. And next time I talk to you, I want you to go from 2 plates up to 3. So get up to 3 plates and I'll be impressed. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of steroids, that might be my only path by the next time that we talk. I'll give Rafael.
That's true. Keep that, bud. You'll be all right. You'll get there.
Yeah.